All right, how's it going, guys? Nice Friday weather here in Nebraska for episode 9 of the Don's Early Light podcast. Nebraska weather's been kind of crazy recently. I don't know if our fellow Nebraskans are watching, but it was blizzard-like conditions like 2 days ago, and now it's bright and sunny, about 60 degrees. So
beautiful day out.
It's beautiful.
We're here at the park, man. We got an old couple playing tennis. We got a kid on a swing over there. You know, this is the American dream.
This is what America's all about.
That's right.
Yeah. We've got a couple talking points today. We're going to go through them. Our first two-ish pretty quick, and then the last one, it's kind of a heavy, not a heavy one, but a big one
dense
for us. So it's going to be dense. So the first order of business, as one might say, is we kind of had an unfortunate falling out with one of our members. If you guys know, we started the PAC. It was 3 of us. It was me, Cooper, and Riker. Unfortunately, due to some just affiliations that me and Cooper really didn't agree with, and we thought it was best for PAC to move away from them that Riker was affiliated with. He stepped down voluntarily. We had a conversation with him, and he stepped down and kind of just away from PAC as a whole. We'll leave it pretty brief because there's not too much to delve into there. It was pretty cut and dry.
And out of respect for Riker, we won't disclose exactly what that was, just because he asked us not to. So we'll respect that, obviously. But we talked to him first, unlike
some other incidents.
The subject of episode 2, you have to watch that. But yeah, we talked to him first. He was okay with stepping down. He stepped down. PAC will move forward, unaffiliated with all of those, all of the things that he decided to affiliate himself with. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, so moving forward, it's just going to be me and Cooper as the main 2 in PAC. Obviously, there's other members that help out with stuff, but we'll be heading all the tablings and all the other fun stuff that we've got planned for this year. So
yeah, we were planning on tabling today, but we realized it was spring break. So there's going to be nobody on campus. So
yeah, so hopefully next week we'll get some tabling in. It's supposed to be nice. As the weather gets nicer, and
hopefully we can start recording these too now. Now that it's going to be nicer and that it's not in like a building and stuff like that. So
yeah, we'll be recording them outside, and those are pretty long, so I think that'll be some good content. Speaking of content, that's our second topic. So as we've kind of just been expanding our outreach. There we go. That was kind of a tongue twister there.
Not really.
Not really, but I just stuttered over that one. We've been reaching into Spotify and Apple Music and just these other podcast websites that have just been helping us get more views and whatnot. And on our last episode on YouTube, we're going from like 10 to 15, 20 views an episode to almost 400. And so that's awesome.
Yeah.
With that comes some more interactions. And so we've been getting some comments, some back and forth
which we invite you to comment however you feel.
Absolutely. And we're here for it. And I was going to read them, but it's going to get kind of lengthy. They kind of just went and said, we're just uneducated, having,
One was like, why would we listen to like a bunch of American 9-year-old schoolboys?
Uneducated school, something like that. And so
all of that is ad hominem.
Yeah,
it doesn't address the point that we made at all. But
we absolutely invite those comments. And what I'll say is, we also are pretty open to inviting people onto our podcast. I mean, obviously we're not like some enormous corporation, and so if people want to come and debate us on Zoom, in person, outside like this, like I don't mind. At our tablings, feel free. I mean, this is all recorded and unedited. For the most part, I mean, we had to do like small little edits here and there, but neither of us really have the time or the know-how to like try and edit.
I can do some very basic. I can cut the beginning and the end and like
trim it up a bit.
Yeah, throw in some funny things, like if the camera dies or something.
Yeah, but we're obviously not here to like cut people's words out or anything like that.
Yeah, so. Like I think our Joyce interview/debate was completely unedited. It was just like from beginning to end.
Literally from beginning to end, besides like cutting out the first 10 minutes where me and Cooper were just kind of hanging out, waiting for him to join. So,
and I believe that's our longest episode.
It is. It was like 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours, and it's a good episode.
It is a good episode.
Honestly, we need to talk about getting him back on, because I think we should delve into some of those topics a little deeper. That was very surface level, like trying to feel each other out, because
he's about as far opposite on the spectrum of politics as Caleb Caleb and I think.
I would agree, yeah.
He's pretty far left, and I wouldn't say we're extremely far right, but we're pretty solidly on the right.
So I think it's good to just hear those debates kind of bounce off of each other and not live in that echo chamber of just debating. Like, I mean, we had that, not debate, but interview with Senator Kathleen, and obviously we don't just want to live in that echo chamber all the time.
Yeah, it's nice to, talk with people that agree with you, but it's way more fruitful to talk with people that don't agree with you.
100%. So yeah, we invite the comments, we invite the discourse and the exchange of ideas. So keep it up, and we're here for it. And obviously these episodes are just going to keep going to more and more platforms, and we're hopefully going to get more interactions and more people that are interested in debating us. So excited for that. Now for our big topic, do you want to segue us into
let's do it. So I wanted to, the most important thing in my life is my relationship with the God who created me, which is the Christian God. 3-in-1, triune, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. There is a special kind of thing about religion where when we table and when we talk to people, I wouldn't say a vast majority of the time, but most of the time, the topic of religion gets brought up no matter what, regardless of the political topic that we're debating. It kind of permeates it permeates everybody's kind of consciousness in their minds. Religion is a very important topic, and so that obviously plays into that comes into play when we're talking about serious things. So being educated on, if you are a Christian, being educated on how to defend the faith, like Paul tells us to do, is extremely important. I can't remember the exact verse, but it goes something like, be prepared to have a defense for the things that you believe in, and things like that. So,
And I think it's very telling at our tablings, because a lot of the time we start with a political debate and people will come and listen and hear what we have to say, whether it's on abortion or the trans issue or LGBTQ, whatever it is. And then somebody afterwards will bring up, oh, you guys must be Christian, or you must have these beliefs. And I think that kind of speaks to our character, that our politics stems from our faith, not our faith from our politics. I think that's a big thing right now in America. That we try to align our politics with our faith, not our faith with our politics. So, but yeah, like people were saying, I'd say probably 50% of our tabling ends up being Christ or religion at some point. We've had a couple tablings where me and Cooper kind of split off, and he's debating one person and I'm debating another, and religion gets brought up somewhere in there. We've had some where we're debating one person together and religion gets brought up somewhere in there. It always seems to end up there, and I'm super happy about it, because that just means people get to hear it, whether it's in passing or they're staying and listening, or the person that we're debating, they get to hear the good news. So absolutely. All right, so kind of what we wanted to talk about today is Christian apologetics, and if you are a Christian, how to defend the faith. If you're not a Christian, hopefully understanding why Christians believe the things that they do, and ultimately, hopefully you can become a Christian as well, which you're always able to. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments.
Yeah, leave them in the comments.
This is the important stuff, truly. This is what it boils down to.
Yeah, this is, politics is important. It's very important, but it's not number one. Number one is Christ. And kind of segue into the apologetics portion, a big topic of disconnect between Christians and non-Christians is if Christ was who he said he was. A lot of people don't believe that he did these miracles, that he rose from the dead. But when you ask them, okay, do you believe that Alexander the Great conquered much of kind of the Middle East and parts of the Mediterranean? They'll say, oh, yeah. Why do you believe that? Well, I guess it's because a lot of people, they learn it in history class or whatever, and they'll say that. But then you get to the root of, well, how do we know this in history? well, I guess it's eyewitness testimony and documentation from the time. And people have no problem applying, that standard to secular things, but you then bring it to Christianity, which there are I believe thousands of documents, both religious and secular, that point to the fact that Christ was real, and no historian would argue that Christ actually was an actual person. The only thing that there is disconnect on is if he obviously rose again from the dead. But Christ existed, and there are plenty of eyewitness testimonies that say they saw him after he had died, and that he ascended into heaven and did many, many miracles. When you look at what the people who were saying that Christ resurrected, how they were treated after this, it was very, very poorly. One of the strongest arguments for Christianity is the fact that the disciples went to their death defending what they knew to be true. So nobody goes to their death defending what they know to be a lie. So that's different than martyrs who are who don't know but they believe. So there's a difference between belief and knowledge. Belief is treating something as true despite proof. Knowledge is treating something as true because of proof and because of evidence. So these people were in the very unique situation to know if what they were saying was true or a lie, and they went to, at some of them crucifixions, never denying it, and always maintaining the fact that Christ had died and rose again. So that's kind
very
of
gruesome deaths. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's not just like they were shot in the head or poisoned. It was they were nailed to 2 crossbeams and hung up outside naked until they asphyxiated to death, because in order to breathe on that crucifix, you had to push yourself up against the nails, and eventually you just get too exhausted and you couldn't do it. So that is kind of the strongest evidence, in my opinion, for the reason as to why Christianity is true.
Yeah, and I'll say we're living through a really interesting time right now. I remember growing up when I was younger, like 10, 11, there was a lot of people on the internet that are trying to kind of disprove like Jesus as a whole, kind of like, oh, he was never really a person or whatever have you. But we're finally to this point where agnostics and atheists, I mean, you have very smart atheists like Alex O'Connor, he's a big one that always comes to mind, just very smart individuals who acknowledge that Jesus was a real person. And so like Cooper was saying, we're finally at this like crux where now it's Jesus was real. It's hard to, you can't really disprove that. I mean, there's so much evidence. And like he was saying, if you're not going to take Jesus being real, then you'd have to, for example, just to kind of discredit Alexander the Great, like really any
George Washington,
Lincoln, like any historical figure that you haven't seen with your own eyes. You can't prove that they were ever a real person because there's so many more ties to Jesus than there was anybody else. And so we are at this really interesting time period where everybody agrees he was a real person. Now we have to figure out, did he really do these miraculous miracles, rise from the dead, raise Lazarus from the dead, these crazy things that nobody else had done. And I think like Cooper was saying, just the idea that these people were willing to sacrifice themselves, knowing what they had seen and heard and witnessed and done, these just incredibly gruesome deaths. I think that's very telling that there's a lot of proof that Jesus was real and he did exactly what the Bible says he did.
Yeah, and not only just them, their families too. Like, especially it'd be like if your family was going to be persecuted, you would certainly not die defending a known lie. That's kind of the there's a fancy scientific word for that defense of Christianity, but I'm not that smart, so.
And I mean, you can make it very simple. Like if Cooper was to claim that he did all these miracles, and I was like, yep, he did them, and then somebody comes to me and says, we're gonna, string you from a tree and until you die, unless you say they didn't do them. I'm like, all right, you got me. So I just think that's incredibly telling. all of the disciples.
Think of it the other way. If I claim to do all these miracles, you see me do all these miracles, you see me heal a blind guy, you see me raise somebody from the dead, and then you see me die, and like you see me get crucified by the Romans. We're very good at killing people. That was like their whole thing. They were like incredible at killing people. And then 3 days later, I show up and I'm like, what's up, man?
He's back.
Hey, you remember how I said I was going to die and then rise again after 3 days? Here I am.
Here I am.
If you were then faced with being strung up on the tree and I said, if you deny me, I will deny you before the Father. So you can't deny me here on earth. What would you do?
String me up on the tree.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that. If somebody predicts their death and resurrection, and then it actually happens, you got to take what that guy says seriously. That guy is, that's God, right? I mean, that guy, he completely defeated death. So,
yeah, this is a big thing in the world right now. I think people are really hungry for an answer. Young people. I have a lot of people that I work with that talk to me about it, and I'm really happy about it because it is a very important thing to me and Cooper and to just everybody. It's incredibly important. And so, yeah, I encourage the discourse, the debate. Obviously, we'll be on campus probably next week, and as long as the weather's nice, we're going to be out there quite a bit. So,
I've got some more arguments.
We're here to talk about it. Yeah, let's hear them. I'm pretty good with breaking this down.
So, there's also the cosmetological argument, I think is the term, which is we now know that the universe had a distinct beginning, right? That is known as the Big Bang. That was proven by, was it Einstein? I don't know. Theory of relativity. I'm not into all of that, but it was proven at some point. And because because the universe had a beginning, that must mean that there was a cause for the beginning. And if there was a cause, that must mean that there has to be an uncaused cause. Because if you just keep going down the line, then it becomes a paradox of, well, then what about that's beginning, and what about that's beginning? So eventually you have to delve into the supernatural logically, and that's something defies natural law. So you have to go into the supernatural. That would be God. So you can't. So if someone doesn't believe in Jesus, but they do believe in God, at least you've got the fact that God, believe in God down. But if they don't even believe in God, you can't get into Jesus. So first you have to convince them that God exists, and then you can move into what the actual God is.
Yeah, and I'll say a lot of the people that we talk to nowadays, I think from all of our debating kind of towards the end of last year, tablings, I think I met one true atheist. Everybody else is really agnostic. Like they think there's a higher power out there, and they either don't care, they don't know, whatever it might be. And so that's kind of what we're getting into here. Is there's people that believe there's a God that just, they don't really care. They think he's mean. They think whatever might have you. So.
Yep, and there's people that think that, there may be a God, but he's not all good, or there may be a God, but he's not all powerful, and that goes against Christian teaching, obviously. But when you look at one of the biggest gripes that people who don't believe in God at all come up with, or who are on the fence about God, is the problem of evil, in which there's never going to be a perfect answer for that, because obviously evil exists, right? We see it all around us, but that does not mean that something that is all good doesn't, and all powerful doesn't. So when you look into why bad things happen, why does bad things happen in the world, to good people, to bad people, to anybody in between. So it comes down to the fact that God did create a perfect world, but us humans decided to rebel against that. And because we decided to rebel against that, the world became cursed with sin, and now we live in this fallen world. But God has promised us that we will eventually get to that perfect world again. So it's not God that causes these bad things. It is our sinful nature that causes us to do these things. And when you look at, why does God even allow sin to exist in the first place? Why does God even give us the choice to sin? You have to look at love. And love, true love, in and of itself is a choice, right? You cannot force somebody to truly love you. Otherwise, it's not true love. I bring this up a lot, but Caleb, if I chained you to my basement water pipe and you couldn't get out, and I said, you have to truly love me, or else, I'm going to starve you down here or whatever. Or not starve him, but like, I'm not going to give you a choice. You have to love me. That's not, Caleb can't actually love me because I'm not giving him a choice. Now it's different. If Caleb's sitting right here and I'm like, Caleb, do you love me? And he has the ability to say yes or no and act in accordance with that, either of those answers. True love implies the free will that chooses that love. So God, knowing that true love requires free will, gave us free will. That's what the tree in the garden was an opportunity for Adam and Eve to not choose God so that they could truly love him if they so chose. So when you look at the argument of love and how that kind of plays into free will and everything like that, that's where you get God being all loving, all good, and all powerful at the same time, while reconciling the problem of evil in the world.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
There's that, and it's a bit complicated. It's taken me a while to kind of grasp that and understand that. But ever since I have, it's become a lot more clear to me that the only good that happens in this world is because of a choice, and the only bad that happens in this world is because of a choice. And if there were no choice, then there would be no good or evil, and there would be no joy or sorrow. There would be no yin and yang. There wouldn't be light. There wouldn't be darkness. So you have to understand that love and goodness requires free will in order for itself to exist in its purest form.
I agree. And then one of the biggest arguments that I like to bring up with people is the idea that Christianity is a very selfless religion. I think when you're talking to a lot of these agnostics, because there's a lot of them, which I understand, just not really wanting to deal with the idea of religion in a way, or they don't really want to put time and effort into it. What I always say is Christianity is in its truest form is this selfless religion where we're not promised a good life. We're not promised.
We're actually promised the opposite of a good life.
Exactly.
If we are to follow Christ.
Yeah, we're not promised 37 virgins after death, or our own universe or planet or whatever. Really, when you boil down to it, we're promised persecution, and we're promised just not the most optimal.
We will be hated, and that we will be, we have to take up our cross daily.
And so that to me really speaks to the true idea of our religion, is that it doesn't please self at all. It's really telling you to push your flesh away and to take up your cross, like Cooper said, and to eventually one day reconnect with your Creator on a very personal level. And so that one really speaks to me quite a bit.
Yeah. There's a lot of Muslim people on campus at UNL, and I've talked to a few of them, and kind of the biggest gripe that they have with Christianity is the fact that God cannot be three in one at the same time. And my defense to that is also love. So when you look at love, what is a greater form of love? Having love for one's own self, or having love for others? And everybody would say, well, I guess it would be having love for others. And I would agree with that. So if God is perfectly loving, all loving, as Muslims believe, has the highest form of love, then he needs others apart from himself to love. And that is why and if God has been all loving from the beginning to the end, and creation and human beings were not here from the beginning to the end, we believe that there was a 6-day technically time period of creation, whether that's 24-hour periods or Longer spans of time is up for debate. I believe in the longer spans of time version of it, just because the Bible says a day is like 1,000 years to God and 1,000 years is like a day to God, but that's getting into the weeds. Because God needs to have perfect love from beginning to end, according to the Muslim, then therefore God needed to have beings apart from himself before he created us. Therefore, that's where you get the Trinity. He had the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit all in one. Different in personhood, but equal in godhood. So,
in like divine nature, I know that's kind of what it's described as. And another point I always like to bring up to anybody who wants to debate either the Trinity or kind of like the humanity of Jesus. That's another big conversation point. Is a lot of people will say it's possible for someone to be 100% God and 100% man. What always confuses me by that statement is, if you believe in a all-knowing, all-powerful, omniscient, omnipotent God, why couldn't he? You know what I mean? I think that's always such a strange argument. How could Jesus be man and God? Why couldn't he be man and God? And so I think that just goes along with the idea of the divine nature. I mean, it's outside of our knowledge, our know-how. So.
Yep. Yeah, and at some point you just have to take a leap of faith. You're not going to have all of the answers here on Earth.
And that applies to everything, whether you're an atheist, an agnostic, a Muslim, there's faith somewhere. Yeah. Eventually you're boiling it down to atheists have faith in the Big Bang, and they have faith that there's no God, and faith in science, I guess, in a way, and agnostics have, faith that there's a God out there, but they just don't know which one, and that they're kind of hoping that they live a good enough life that they get a free ride. There's some people that just truly don't care. I have a person that I work with that I had a deep conversation with on that, which was super sad. It was a really sad conversation, but just the idea that they said that they know they're going to hell, but they just don't care because they would rather have a good life here.
Wow.
That's just, Yeah,
it's your choice, I suppose.
It's
that proves God's love, right? Is that he's not forcing that person to spend eternity with him, despite his wishes, because clearly he wishes to do what he wants here in rebellion to God. And God will honor his wish when it comes to Judgment Day. And
there's a pretty hard-hitting quote that I've been seeing recently. It's, if you're not willing to spend your earthly time with God, why would he force you to spend eternity with him? That doesn't really make sense. Going down the same chaining in a basement idea, if Cooper said he doesn't want to spend the first 50 years of his life with me, why would I expect him to spend the last 50 years of his life with me? You know what I mean? I wouldn't, be going out of my way. You could break it down to like an ex-girlfriend. If your girlfriend breaks up with you, you wouldn't come back, 20 years later and be like, why aren't you with me now? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so. I mean, if you say to God, I want nothing to do with you, God is going to say, okay, I respect your free will. I'm going to be here if you ever change your mind. And if you don't change your mind before your time on this earth is up, then God is going to honor your wish by not forcing you to spend eternity with him in heaven.
And it'd be incredibly unloving for him to say, well, I don't care about your choice, I'm going to force you to come with me.
That wouldn't be true love.
That would be...
as we discussed earlier.
Yeah, violating your love would be... Yeah. So, I think there's a lot of fruit for thought there, and like we said earlier, it's a pretty heavy topic and very open to debate with it.
Fruit for thought.
Fruit for thought, I like that.
Did you say food or fruit?
I think I said fruit on accident, but I kind of like that.
It's not bad.
But, it's very...
There's a little gnat on my leg.
That's the worst part about summertime, the bugs. This is perfect when there's not a lot of mosquitoes or anything outside right now. Yeah,
it's spring. Right now it's March 20th, I believe.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 67.
See, and I tried not to say that earlier.
Degrees.
But that's on you. I was able to bite my tongue on this one.
68 is going to have his day in the sun one of these days. 69 and 67 are so funny, and 68 is just in between. One day 68, you'll get there.
He'll get something.
Yeah, you'll get there. But
yeah, so we're pretty. Honestly, I'm just excited to start tabling again. That's really what started all of this, and so I'm excited to get back out there, boots on the ground.
Yep. Which, as of 4 minutes ago, there's no technically boots on the ground in Iran, but there are Marines stationed on ships like near Iran, I believe. So
Yeah, so there's been a couple bombings, there's been a couple ships that are positioning in certain ways, and so we'll keep you guys updated. If anything happens, we'll probably make a podcast episode pretty quick. If boots are on the ground or if we withdraw, whatever ends up happening. So
Yep. I think that the Persian people, man, they gotta, the bombings haven't stopped yet, right? And Trump has said, stay in, wait until it's over, and then go take it. So I think Trump is just setting them up for the best possible, scenario for them to be able to take over. We'll see, though. Hopefully that's the case.
And obviously there's still some pretty big tensions because we bombed the original leader and then his son took over, and so that's not really what we wanted to happen, and so I think there's still some unfinished business there to help finish everything out. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. It's a waiting game right now. I know there's a lot of, we have those YouTube comments where everybody's like, it's an Israel takeover, and then there's other people that say, we're just an evil American empire just bombing the little guy. I think it's just
the little guy that said, we're going to kill you if we ever get the chance.
Yep.
And they were starting to develop nukes.
And it's only so funny, maybe if a 7-year-old says, I'm going to stab you, haha, but then you wait 10 years, now he's 17, and it's like, he's a little bit bigger now, and you wait another 10 years.
And then he says, I'm going to stab, I still want to stab you.
I still want to stab you. And you're like, okay, that's a little more concerning. Now he's 27. It's like, all right, that's a full-grown man.
Yeah.
And he still wants to stab me. That's a little more concerning, so.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah,
but instead of a knife, it's a nuclear bomb. Can kill, millions of people in the blink of an eye.
I still have my concerns with China's involvement, but they've been staying silent for the most part. And so I think if we remain out, if we keep our boots off the ground, if we just keep doing kind of what we're doing, trying to assess that regime change, I think China will stay out of it, and I think we'll prevent an actual war. Everybody's calling it a war. I don't really see the war part. I mean, this is like Venezuela. We're just kind of bombing a couple places and, taking their leader.
It's a war implies, wars can be very one-sided, obviously, but like this is, I think only like a dozen Americans have died, and the majority of it has been due to friendly fire incidents.
Which I am incredibly against, by the way. I wish we really didn't have any Americans in there. I feel like we
obviously
could pretty easily just drones at this point. I don't know why. That's what really concerns me personally, is why we have boots that are that close, to in position. If something maybe goes wrong, whatever. I'm not a Army general, military strategist, but I would prefer just some drones and just getting done what we need to get done.
I think 6 were stationed on a base in Qatar. I can't remember what the country was, but Iran struck that base and killed 6 soldiers. And then 6 more were refueling a jet, and they got shot down by friendly fire. Or it was an air refueler that got shot down by friendly fire. They weren't refueling the jet while it happened, I don't think. But I don't think any Americans have died like in Iran at the moment.
I believe that's
than, like
true.
Airspace, obviously, but like no one has been,
They're not breaking down doors and.
Right, it's not like Fallujah right now. It's
exactly.
I just am opposed to like any sort of quagmire, any sort of like war that's going to last 8 years. But there's it's a nuanced issue, and
it is, and something that is a little frustrating is how I feel like how simple people try to make it.
Yeah.
Like, you're either pro murdering school children in Iran or you're against it. It's like war is a very nuanced topic. This isn't like a right or wrong. Like, there's a lot of gray area.
There are thousands of kids who died in the bombings of over Germany, right? But everybody says that
those are
defeating the Nazi regime was an absolute win. And while it was a great moment in American history.
Nuking Hiroshima and Nagasaki, those are
ending the war, ending. And people always say, "Oh, you didn't have to nuke Japan." Well, we dropped the first nuke, asked them to surrender, and they were like, "No."
So we dropped the
So we dropped a saying. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, we don't know how many of these you guys have. So
Yeah.
we're going. And luckily enough, we only had 2. And Japan.
Thankfully, they didn't call our bluff.
Yeah, but
Although it wasn't really a bluff. We leveled 2 cities, but
yeah. But yeah, Japan was going to fight to the bitter end. That saved many American lives and Japanese lives by doing that. But that's World War II is a topic for another day.
It is, but I only say that I think it's important to bring up that, I mean, war is messy. Innocent people are going to die kind of regardless. But I think as long
Which
as...
is incredibly tragic.
It is, but I think as long as we're keeping boots off the ground, as long as we're just trying to enact this regime change and truly just go after evil people, I see that as a net benefit as of right now. So,
Yep.
other than that, I mean, that's kind of wraps it up. A little bit of a shorter one. I mean, I'm just excited to get out and start debating again. Bring the table out, set up the camera, be outside for a couple hours.
It's gonna be lit.
It's gonna be lit. So, yeah, I'll just kind of keep you guys posted with that schedule, and hopefully we'll start getting some more people.
Yeah, we want to get Abdallah on. I mean, if Riker's friend Maddie is still down to come talk, even with Riker, that'd be great. But obviously Riker's welcome as a guest, but he obviously stepped down and cut ties with us, so we'll see where that goes. But
and then, I mean, we've sent some emails out to some of our other Nebraska senators. I mean, we're kind of just playing the waiting game and seeing who we can get on. And like we said before, if you send an email our way or hit us up on social media, I'm pretty good at keeping up on that.
I'll have to use the PAC email. I sent them from my personal email.
That's totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but if anybody wants to hit up the email or the Instagram or Facebook, I'm pretty active on those. So if you want to debate over Zoom, that's kind of how we've done it now. Like, I really like the Zoom setting. And like we said earlier in this episode, we don't really cut anything. It's just conversation between people that disagree with us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Legit.
Anything else you want to add?
I guess just, if you're a Christian, consider these defenses and try and commit them to memory. Be well versed in Scripture and understand kind of the characteristics of God and understand who God is so you can better defend Him.
One more thing I wanted to bring up, I almost forgot about this. I know a lot of people try to separate religion and politics. There's a lot of churches that teach we're not supposed to be involved in politics. I would say I heavily disagree with that, and I would really I'd read your Bible a bit more and figure out, who David is and Solomon and, these incredibly, these incredible religious figures, but also, I mean, kings or politicians, and I would really consider that heavily because I think that it matters that we're in politics, because when we're not in politics, we get abortions and we get just crazy importations of third world countries that hate Western values. I mean, there's so many negative outcomes that come from trying to just say, I just want to step away from politics.
Yep. And we're called to bring heaven to earth. And the best way to do that is to, the law is a moral guide. It's, when you grow up in a country and you begin to learn its laws, you then kind of take that into account with your own morality. And, if your country says that, if you suspect a woman of disobeying you, you're free to beat her. A lot of Islamic countries, the Quran says this, then you view women as less than valuable in terms of comparing that to men. But if you grow up in a country that says men and women are of equal value, an infinite level of value, then you're going to view men and women on an equal plane, or you're more likely to, rather. So get involved in politics and
obviously
be an informed voter.
Yeah, this doesn't mean you have to start a podcast and a nonprofit, but I would say if you're on the fence about voting, or you don't think it's important to be up to know of which governor should I vote for, or which mayor, or whatever, I'd say it's important to do that research, because like Cooper was saying, it's incredibly hard to derive morality outside of really like a religious text in a way, because when you don't have something higher than a human or higher than yourself to base morality off of, you start to just derive it from what you think is good. And while obviously there's some people that think what they think or know is best, you get people like on Epstein's Island who think that what they're doing is okay, and those are your leaders, and so you just have to be careful with allowing your Christian values to step away from any sort of political action. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I think that's really big. That's a big thing for me, at least, because I have a lot of Christian friends who don't want to be involved in politics, and I get it. Like I said, you don't have to campaign for Pete Ricketts or anything like that, but I would definitely suggest making sure you're up to date and you know who you're voting for and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah. And if you're not a Christian, consider the arguments that I made and look into Christianity. At least give it a shot, If you're going to go through life and not consider very serious things, then unfortunately, you're just not a serious person. Consider it and come to, pray about it if you believe in doing that. And just, I'll pray for you. So.
Yeah. But yeah, that wraps it up. Obviously, we're still looking for donations. $30 gets you a pack hat. So right here, got black and tan.
Black and tan.
So
kind of swaggy.
It is, and we've done pretty well so far on donations, and we're just gonna keep hustling.
Shout out Wilson. My friend Wilson bought a hat. He's a dog. We're gonna go fishing sometime.
I can't remember if we mentioned him already, but Hal Dobb gave us a pretty sizable donation.
Oh, yeah, we mentioned Hal Dobb.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and I love him. He's a really good dude. I mean, he's so smart, so much wisdom. I email him every once in a while, like, hey, you got advice for this? And
Hal Dobb doesn't chain you to his water basement.
He does not
force you to love him.
No, this is purely just because he's a good dude.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's true love right there.
But yeah, I think that
Caleb and Hal.
Caleb and Hal.
Frodo and Sam.
That is kind of yeah.
Obi-Wan and Luke.
It's not a good one. I'm drawing a blank.
Toad
right
and
now.
Frog.
Mario and
Luigi. I guess they're brothers.
Yeah, they're brothers, but
Bert and Ernie. Yeah.
But yeah, so
Shaggy and Scooby-Doo.
Shaggy and Scooby. The combo. But yeah, that wraps up for me. I think pretty much good there.
All right. Awesome.
So we'll see you on the next one. We'll see you on campus.
Yes. All right.